Humans and dogs have been best of friends for millennia, potentially over 100,000 years, and not merely in a symbiotic relationship, not like something that's strictly mutually beneficial as one sees with so many other animals. Rather, the relationship that we have shared involves a deep and mutual love and trust and friendship, and insofar as we know, such a friendship across species is unique in the animal kingdom. Wolves and humans are both apex predators, competing largely for the same niche. To understand how it is that we get along so well, we must examine the aspects of our psychologies that match up. And we would have to look earlier than the dog. We would have to look to the dog's predecessor, the wolf, because it was deep in prehistory when wolves and humans first found each other, when they first formed the alliance that ultimately would lead to them becoming so closely allied that today many persons think of dogs as family, and clearly dogs see us the same way. It can very reasonably be said that the alliance that humans developed with wolves originated in our social structures. The time of the Pleistocene, when dogs and humans evolved, was a primal world, a place that at once offered sublime beauty and incredible danger. It was the era of the megafauna, when gigantic herbivores and predators, the likes of which had not been seen upon the land since the time of the dinosaurs, once again roamed. The landscape itself was challenging, demanding. North and south of the equator, the most recent incarnation of the Ice Age ranged, and the landscape just south of the great continental glaciers was one of ongoing transformation. Vast, dry Arctic deserts dominated some landscapes, boreal forest in others, and just south, high temperate forests. Such landscapes are inherently dangerous, places where the weather can turn deadly in an instant. And sudden changes in weather notwithstanding, the winters were long and cold, hungry and dark. In this landscape dwelt the clans of the wolves and the clans of humans. And I dare say at that time, wolves may well have been more numerous than humans. But something our species had in common was neither was all that big, nor imposing on its own. Humans and wolves, both omnivores, with heavy predatory bents, needed meat to survive. But humans and wolves didn't have all that much in the way of tooling at their disposal, at least not in the form of biological tooling. That is to say, humans did not have big and vicious fangs, nor long, sharp claws. Humans were not especially fast, nor did humans possess a particularly good sense of smell or hearing. What they did have going for them was high intelligence, very good vision with an ability almost unparalleled in nature to spot gestalts, which is to say meaningful patterns hidden in the landscape, making the camouflage of many animals almost useless against human vision. And humans did have a couple other unrivaled traits. We had our hands, which gave us an ability to make tools. We had our minds, uniquely good at not only abstract thought, but working out complex problems in a three-dimensional field, such as the visual spatial problems that allowed humans to choose the best locations to set up villages, hunting camps, and to seek and stalk prey. We also had an extremely good, perhaps unrivaled ability to communicate, and extremely necessary at the time in particular. We were very canny when it came to socialization. Humans, after all, were not large, nor strong, nor particularly fast. What we had was our ability to support one another, to come together in numbers, to defend one another when in danger, to look after one another when sick or injured, and to form friendships and bonds that could transcend generations. Wolves, when you think about it, were not all that dissimilar. In fact, psychologically, they were very much paralleled with us. They were not, especially in contrast with the creatures of the era, particularly large, nor imposing, but like humans, they had high intelligence, a very good ability to communicate, and they were very social, caring for and looking after one another, much the same as humans. We also had in common that both our species, though physiologically quite dissimilar, are remarkably alike in terms of our dietary needs. We are both omnivores. Though humans might be classified as omnivores with a herbivorous preference, and wolves might be classified as omnivores with a carnivorous preference. This led to wolves and humans relying on very similar food resources, but perhaps different enough that they would not go into direct competition over them. Ordinarily in nature, when two species come to rely on similar food sources, a competition begins. This leads to an evolutionary race or battle, if you will. And the one that can best defend itself and make best use of those resources wins that battle, becoming more numerous, while the others' numbers fall greatly, possibly down to zero, the realm of extinction. Instead, it seems that the preferences of wolves and humans were just different enough they were able to tolerate one another, and then eventually their similar social skills, high intelligence, and communicative abilities led to them benefiting from one another. For both wolves and humans, their ability to survive in this wild and demanding world was almost entirely reliant on their ability to come together and support one another. Without that ability, we just are not particularly imposing species. Thus, we must be social with one another. And that social nature was so deeply bred into our kind over the long eons of evolution that it pushed its way outward into a phenomenon now known as hypersociability, the ability of organisms to form bonds across species. We talked about this in the previous episode on wolf-dog-human evolution, and wolves and dogs, along with humans, possess hypersociability in spades. That trait of hypersociability allowed wolves and humans to cross the bounds of species and genus, and not only tolerate one another, but form bonds of friendship with one another. If you read many of the articles on how wolves and humans grew together, the articles seem to imply that it was a long process, may have taken centuries, perhaps even millennia to occur. However, I honestly don't think that's likely. Put a wolf pup with humans and they imprint pretty quickly and bonds can form much faster. My personal belief, though I don't have the data to prove it, it's only belief based on my background in behavior psychology and a lifetime working with animals, including dogs and wolves, is that once a human finally came across a wolf pup or pups and managed to raise them and that initial bond formed, I think the relationship would have developed very quickly from there, especially as humans and wolves came to understand the practical value of that relationship. Wolves could alert humans of animals coming near their hunting camps and villages, and humans could produce a greater variety of food and a surplus of food, an arrangement which would have benefited both and which would have broadened over time as wolves were also adapted to look after families, help find game, and eventually help herd livestock, all throughout the process of the wolf's evolution into the dog. Now, the transformation of the wolf into the dog is not as huge a transformation as one might think, even though one could look at a modern dog, especially some of the breeds which are in morphology quite far from the appearance of a wolf, such as a toy poodle or a chihuahua. But the truth is, every dog, every single dog, is more than 99.9% wolf genetically. And yet, the changes between wolves and dogs as they have evolved to accommodate humans is pronounced. It is easily observable. Though at the same time, I would not classify those changes as huge. One of the more pronounced changes has to do with eye contact, but even this one, I don't think it's quite as huge as some have said. Wolves, as a rule, do not make eye contact with humans. Now, that's what I've read, though the wolf I had when I lived in the Alaskan bush did not seem to have any particular compunction against eye contact. It didn't seek it in the same way that a dog might, but insofar as I could tell, it was not shy of eye contact. But if you have a dog, you know that dogs frequently do make eye contact. If you look at them, they will look back at you right in the eye. If you speak to them, they will look you right in the eye. If you're doing something that they find interesting and they observe you and you glance their way, they will look to your eyes. Dogs seek eye contact. Evolutionary biologists believe that this behavior evolved, or at least was emphasized in wolf psychology as the wolf evolved into the dog, because humans do have a preference for eye contact. In fact, we consider it rude if we are speaking or interacting with somebody and they make no eye contact with us. We get the impression that they are not really engaged with us. Yet I must note that this is only the case in humans because among our primate ancestors, eye contact is considered a threat. So I would ask the question, just how and when did humans begin to make eye contact with one another? Is it possible our social interactions with dogs created the human preference for eye contact? We know that dogs have shaped human evolution just as we have shaped the evolution of wolves into dogs. And our almost intuitive ability to read a dog's body language and feel sympathy in concert with its behaviors may well be a product of that evolution. And it certainly makes me wonder, since dogs cannot speak, humans would have had to look at dogs when engaging with them. And since wolf communication consists of a great deal of body language, including elements such as eye contact, wolves may have themselves taken to observing humans and their eyes. Barring other evidence, I think it's quite possible human and wolf interaction may have led to the modern human's preference for eye contact when engaging through communication or other interaction. But there may never be any way to actually resolve that question. It must, insofar as I know, remain an area of speculation and theory. But fundamentally, dogs are dogs because wolves are wolves. Wolves are highly social creatures. They're very social among themselves, and they have advanced communicative skills. Now, their communication, because wolves are nonverbal, is played out in ways that are very different than that of humans, who express much of their communication through spoken words. However, wolves act out their communication. This comes in the form of various play-like maneuvers, such as bowing, rolling over, and changing ear positions. It also comes about in the form of verbalizations or vocalizations, which are not spoken words, not exactly, yet they have deep meaning in themselves. A wolf's growl and the way it growls, its chuffs, its howls, its barks. Because wolves are very social with one another in such a way that requires complex communicative skills, this has likewise allowed dogs to evolve into animals that also have complex communicative skills. In the wild, to survive, wolves had to be social, ergo they had to come together and hunt as packs, to defend each other as packs, to raise their vulnerable young. They had to be able to communicate. Hence, they evolved high intelligence and the ability to create and act upon communication and coordinate their behaviors. And to survive that ancient, dangerous Ice Age world, humans had to do the exact same thing. We hunted in the same areas. We did not require exactly the same kinds of foods. Humans were better at also relying on vegetation and starches, but we required similar foods which brought us into contact with one another. And occasionally, but not always, made us competitors. This created a situation that was as if nature had set us up to work out our differences. In other words, it's only natural that humans, dogs, and wolves like each other, live with each other, understand one another, and together become nature's only interspecies, in fact, intergenous families. But the story does not exactly end there because there are other similarities. Let's look at the concept of human leadership and compare and contrast that with the alpha wolf. I'm going to tell you something, a simple fact that might take you by surprise. You might object to it, and you are welcome to do your own research. But there isn't exactly such a thing as an alpha wolf, at least not in the way people have thought of it since for the last 100 years or so, in the sense that the alpha wolf is the big boss of the pack and it's all about the alpha. That's just not the case. Wolf packs do have alphas, betas, and even omegas way at the bottom of the pack. But the job of the alpha wolf is not to be the head honcho who's in charge and it's all about him. That's a human misconception, a human anthropomorphization. Because to be honest, humans have evolved a much more self-centered and primitive concept of leadership, in which leadership is about the leader and it's not about the group the leader leads. The job of the alpha wolf is to look after the pack. If there is danger in the area, the alpha wolf is the first into the fray. The alpha wolf is the one out there on guard, always listening for threats and paying attention to changes in the environment that have to be dealt with. On a hunt, the alpha wolf leads the hunt. The alpha wolf takes the chances. Looking at wolf personalities, wolves have other traits that humans also value greatly. One of those traits is that wolves have an amazing, even heroic loyalty toward one another. And if they detect that one of their kin is injured, they will put themselves to the hazard to go and assist that injured companion. Sadly, wolf hunters in the United States, which we mostly find in the northern and western states these days, use this trait to ambush wolves. They will, through one means or another, kill one wolf and then set that wolf out as bait to lure in its pack mates. And in time, the pack mates will come. And then the wolf hunter takes another wolf and leaves that one out there and takes another wolf, and so on and so forth. The wolves' beautiful, almost sublime loyalty toward one another is something that is twisted by wolf hunters in an unbelievably treacherous manner to work against them. In terms of wolf family, the entire pack devotes themselves to the raising of the young, and they are devoted parents. They love and coddle and care for their young. They bring them food. They tolerate their misbehaviors and indiscretions, much as humans do with their children. And much as children, as the wolf pups grow, they observe and even idolize their adults, who are often their older siblings, following them around, learning how to go about their lives as wolves. Combine this with the wolf's and the human's ability to be hypersocial, to socialize across species. It set wolves up to, once they came into contact with humans and learned not only to tolerate humans, but to like them, to be able to learn how to get along with humans. And it also, because humans have almost these exact same behavioral kinds of traits and social traits as well as social values, it set humans up to like wolves, ergo, to like dogs. But you've probably already detected there is a tragedy in the story. The tragedy is that there is this quirk about human nature that we also seem to dislike those species that emulate us, or at least which emulate us and are not subservient to us. And this bias doesn't seem to apply just to wolves, but to any intelligent social creature. And so, the attempts of the United States National Park Service to reintroduce wolves to their western ranges in North America, well, they've met with resistance in the form of persons who have expressed an absurd and unreasoned fear of wolves, poaching wolves, and pushing their states to legalize wolf hunting, which is ridiculous when you think about it. In all of recorded history in North America, there have only been 2 confirmed kills by wolves of humans. All other incidents happened only with habituated wolves, or among wolf packs being hunted and stalked by humans, and evidence for those is only hearsay and circumstantial. Going back to our ancient fairy tales, we tell tales about the big bad wolf. I think what spooks people about these creatures is we see ourselves in them, and yet they are not subservient to us. And humans have this need to believe the world is, in fact, subservient, somehow inferior to them. It was a long-held notion within the realm of evolution that humans were the pinnacle of evolution. In the monolithic religions, the world was created for humans. And it is perhaps these things that haunt us about wolves. They are like us in so many ways, but not subservient to us. Or perhaps it's that they simply remind us that we are not so unique as we like to believe, and there are beings out there, intelligences, like ourselves, on our own world. I can't say for sure. Personally, I've never shared the hatred nor fear of wolves. But I do know that dogs and humans are best friends because long ago, wolves and humans were best friends. And at the core of it, every dog is fundamentally a wolf. And we, if we are honest with ourselves, are not all that different. Thank you for watching. The Naturalist program is committed to the reliable coverage of natural science and environmental issues. If you like our program, please take a moment to subscribe and like.
Autumn leaves are turning brown, branches bare.